Was it too sexy? Was it too steamy? Was it too moist? I think this review, I have to admit, I've used the word moist in this review than I've ever have in any of my other reviews, which is saying something because I've used the word moist a lot. But this one is definitely top 5, top 3 uses the words moist. Let's go ahead and move on to my review for Challengers, a.k.a. Zendaya'S brother husbands. That's what we've started calling it, Chen. I'm going to call it that. It's a movie of many titles, many pseudonyms, many names, but we're just going to call it Zendaya'S brother husbands movie. And starting off, I want to talk about sports movies. So, for those that don't know, I'm not the biggest sports fan out there. I don't know if you guys didn't realize that. I'm a bit of a nerdy guy, who loves movies and TV shows, cartoons, video games, comic books, etc. You name it. Nerd! I love me my nerd shit, and I love talking about them even more. However, despite my apathy just towards watching regular sports or playing sports, I actually don't mind and even mostly love a great number of sports movies, from Rocky to Moneyball, The Iron Claw, Rudy, hell, Dodgeball and Underdog Story.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What?
All amazing films in my book, endlessly entertaining, can be rewatched multiple times and shared with other people. They're great. I love sports dramas. So when I learned about Challengers, a movie on the surface about tennis with Zendaya in the lead, I was curious. But after watching the trailers and learning that it's made by the guy that turned Timothée Chalamet into a cannibalistic ghoul roaming the American Midwest, it firmly had my attention. But before getting into the hot, wet details of Challengers, let me provide you guys with a synopsis. Tashi, a former tennis player turned coach, has transformed her husband from a mediocre player into a world-famous tennis champion. However, to jolt him out of a recent losing streak, she makes him play a low-level tournament, but he later goes up against his former best friend, who was also his wife's former boyfriend. So in case you guys didn't see the trailers, which I all like, by the way, this is a very sexy, steamy movie, and it leans into that hard. Yes, it's also a tennis movie too, but it's all about those complicated, sweaty relationships between our lead characters and how often they make each other moist. And this is a very moist movie. It's a slip and slide of sexual exploration, intrigue, and power dynamics. It's funny to learn that the film, which is directed by Luca Guadagnino, I believe that's how you say his name, who's known for films like, Bones and All, Call Me By Your Name, but apparently it's written by Justin Curtez, who also happens to be married to Celine Song, who made 2023's Past Lives, which a beautiful film about how a relationship can change over time and distance. Challengers is like that movie, but it's like the darker, kinkier, bisexual, gayer, and very moist partner of that particular film. And none of those things make it bad at all. Matter of fact, all of those things make it such an entertaining movie to watch as we primarily follow these three young characters and how their relationships, between each of them change over time, over, I guess, a period of nearly 15 years. And, it also provides a very hot, moist love triangle, if you will. Zendaya, a.k.a. Zendaya Maurice Stormer Coleman. I finally looked up her entire name recently, since I didn't know what it was. But it is a long name, so you know what? I can see why she just goes by her first name, just Zendaya. Keep it simple. Keep it concise. Plus, she also just sounds like a sci-fi fantasy character anyway, so that's also pretty cool. But Zendaya is an actress I feel like people have enjoyed in the projects that she's popped up in. You know, whether it be something like Euphoria or Dune or Spider-Man, hell, even Malcolm and Marie. Not a particularly great movie, and we have to tolerate John David Washington, who's also in it. Bullshit. But she's good in that film. But I think we've all, you know, been waiting for that film, for that movie that like really showcases her range and skills as an actor. And I'm very happy to say that Challengers absolutely does that. Challengers is absolutely that movie. Excuse me. I also believe that Zendaya gravitated to this project because in a weird way, it also kind of reflects her real life circumstances to a degree, but also it's more of like a twisted reflection of it. You know, Zendaya plays the character of Tashi, who initially is this tennis prodigy. Everyone's obsessed over her. You know, who's thrusted into the limelight and at a very extremely young age. You know, she's dealing with celebrity and stardom, but she has to constantly present herself in a very specific way. Always be beautiful. Always be confident. Always say the right things at the right time. Never make a mistake, quote unquote, or you'll be judged harshly, you know, and that could be said about many young actors or celebrities, you know, most definitely, there's no question. But it's the same for Zendaya, and she probably brings a lot of her own experiences to this world. Excuse me, she brings a lot of these experiences to this role, and it shows across her entire performance throughout the movie. It just enhances and improves her role as Tashi. And her character is complicated, sensual, sexy, flawed. It's a great role for her. And again, I think it's her best role to date. We see many different sides to her. And I think that's really, really cool. But again, I don't want to dismiss the rest of the cast of the film at all, particularly Josh O'Connor and Mike Fast as Patrick and Art, respectively. They're also young tennis players initially who are, you know, again, at first very good friends. But when they meet and start to interact with, you know, Tashi, things start to get very complicated and very sexual over the course of the entire film. You know, and I and everyone talk about chemistry between actors, whether their characters are united or opposed to each other. You just get a wonderful feeling seeing two or several actors really connect with one another in a film. So much so that they just enhance each other's performances. You know, we've seen that with, I don't know, Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci.
Your fucking warrant don't ever go over my fucking head again, you motherfucker, you.
To Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Well, Zendaya, O'Connor, and Fast have what I would describe as fuck me chemistry because the scenes between them are steamy, tense, and downright hot. They're very entertaining to watch, and their characters' respective flaws make their ever-changing dynamic and relationships very interesting to follow throughout the entirety of the movie. On the technical sides of things, the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is one of the best scores of the year so far. I'd have to go back and listen to like every score that I've heard so far in 2024, at least a couple of films that kind of stood out to me. But the music here is side by side, you know, head and shoulders next to Hans Zimmer's score for Dune Part 2. Now, I am quite partial to synth and electronic keyboard, and the score uses both of those a lot, but it just makes the tennis matches and even the conversations between the characters more intense. And the tennis matches themselves were mostly well choreographed and fun to follow. Though, you know, again, I'm no tennis expert, but what I saw looked pretty good. There's my criticism. I have to admit, during some of the tennis matches, they do this kind of ball POV cam where you are literally the ball and where the cameras like spin around stuff. And that was kind of unnecessary to me. And I can kind of see a lot of people not digging that stylistic choice and kind of be a little disorienting. And I guess lastly, my only major complaint about the movie and is that it does jump back and forth a lot. throughout the narrative. This is a non-linear narrative, and it does get a little jumbled to me at some points. We're going back and forth over the course of 15 or so years, and while they do put up a lot of title cards to remind you where you are, it can sometimes be a little jarring. But other than that, this is a very well-made drama. With the backbone of a sports thriller. The writing and dialogue is sharp and witty. The performances, especially among the three leads, are extremely strong. And the score is so damn good. I'm actually going to play a little bit of the score for you guys because I think you'll really like it. And I have to admit, I've actually been listening to it ever since I saw the movie. I've been working on a ton of stuff all day long. And I'm like, this score is incredible. Love it so much. I think it's going to be one of the best ones of the year. Certainly, it's one of the best ones that I've had the pleasure of listening to in 2024. But I'm curious, what about you guys? Have you guys had the chance to check out Challengers, a.k.a. Zendaya'S brother husbands? I'm very, very curious to know. Did you like the film as much as I did? Were you more mixed on it? Maybe that ball cam upset you. Maybe you didn't like that. Or were you in the negative camp? You just not like it? Was it too sexy? Was it too steamy? Was it too moist? I think this review, I have to admit, I've used the word moist in this review than I've ever have in any of my other reviews, which is saying something because I've used the word moist a lot. But this one is definitely top 5, top 3 uses the word moist. Let me know, guys. Let me know.